Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to learn about factorizing expressions, our learning intentions. To understand that factorizing is the reverse procedure of expanding, to be able to find the highest common factor of two terms, and to be able to factorize expressions. Okay, so what is factorizing? Factorizing is the reverse procedure of expanding. Okay, so let's now look at this diagram here. So in our last lesson, we learned how to start with something with brackets and eliminate those brackets through a process called expanding. And what we did is we went 4 times 2x, which is 8x, then 4 times 3, which is 12. So that's expansion. It's a way to eliminate brackets. What we're going to learn today is the reverse procedure of expanding, which means we're going to start with something without brackets and then create something with brackets. And this is called factorizing. Perfect. So now the question is, how would we go about such a process? And let's just begin with a nice little example. So here is 8x plus 12. So it's what we have right here. So we're going to learn how to go from this to this. Okay, so how are we going to do that? The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to find the highest common factor of 8x, oh, that's an A, 8x, so this right here, and 12. So what's the highest common factor of 8x and 12? Well, think to yourself, what's the highest common factor of 8 and 12? It's going to be 4. You're going to see later on how that x is going to be involved. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to pull that 4 out the front, and we're going to have brackets, and we're going to have something plus something else inside the brackets. So now the question is, 4 times what is going to give me 8x? Well, it's going to be 4 times 2x is going to give me 8x. Then 4 times what is going to give me 12? Well, 4 times 3 is going to get me 12. And now, as you can see, we have arrived at the factorized form. So that's how we approach these questions. We first find the highest common factor of the two terms, we pull it out, and then we figure out what's going to be inside the brackets. Now, just for some terminology here, we call this right here the factorized form. And what we started with, we call this the expanded form. Perfect. So we have just learned how to go from the expanded form to the factorized form through a process known as factorization. Now, the great thing about factorization is that you can actually check whether or not you've done it correctly. So how can we do that? So let's now check if we've done it correctly. The way that we do that is we go, okay, let's just expand. 4 times 2x is 8x. 4 times 3 is 12. And as you can see, that is what we started with, 8x plus 12. So I've done it correctly because I got back to where I started. So that's the great thing about factorization. You can actually check what you have done. Okay, let's now go through kind of a strict formal definition of the procedure. So it says, to factorize an expression, first take the highest common factor of the terms outside the brackets. So that's what we did there. So here we had 8x plus 12. We found the highest common factor, which was 4, and we took it outside the brackets. It then says, divide each term by it, leaving the results in the brackets. Okay, now I explained it a little bit of a different way, but we did that as well. If I go 8x divided by 4, that's 2x. And if I go 12 divided by 4, that's 3. So that's just another way of thinking about it. Let's now go through their definition here. So here we have 10x plus 15y. What's the highest common factor of 10x and 15y? It's going to be 5. That's my highest common factor. So I'm going to put that outside the brackets. That's my highest common factor. I then am going to go 10x divided by 5 is going to be 2x, and 15y divided by 5 is going to be 3y. And that's how we do it. And remember, to check your answer, expand the factorized form. For example, and they're just expanding the factorized form, and you can clearly see that that right there, that is what we started with, and that's what you're checking. You're checking is if after we expand, do we arrive back at what we started with? Perfect. So that is what factorization is all about. We're going to be going through each of those steps slowly now, so you get a good grasp of it. Now, the first thing we have to really consider is finding the highest common factor. So let's now do some examples with those. All right, so the highest common factor of a set of terms is the largest factor that divides each term. So for example, here they are. All right. So if I have the highest common factor of 20 and 35, what is that going to be? And I might just switch to a red pen. The highest common factor of 20 and 35, it's clearly going to be 5. Let's move on to the next one. What is my highest common factor of 18a and 24ab? Now, as you can see, we have pronumerals here, which makes things interesting. I have an A, and I also have a B here, a B there as well. Now, let's just consider the number to begin with. Let's just consider that number at the front. What is the highest common factor of 18 and 24? Well, the highest common factor of 18 and 24 is going to be 6. Now, so what that means is I can pull 6 out of both of them, but I can also pull A out of both of them. So that means I can put A here as well. So my highest common factor is 6A. Let's just walk through that slowly now. If I have 18A, if I want to break that up into factors, I could say, well, that is 3 times 6 times A. And if I have 24A, that can be broken down into 4 times 6. Oops, sorry, there's a B there as well. 24AB. 4 times 6 times A times B. And remember, what we're looking for is our highest common factor. So that's going to be 6, 6, but also A. There's A's there as well. So that's how I'm getting 6A. We're pulling out what's common and greatest to both of them. Okay, let's now move on to our next one. Here we have 12x and negative 18y. So what we're going to do is first consider just the number. So if I have 12 and 18, the highest common factor is again going to be 6. Then you're going to look at the pronumerals. Do they share any pronumerals? They do. I've got an x here and an x here. So that means I can pull out that x. So that means my answer is going to be 6x. If you really wanted to take your time and slowly do this, you could say, all right, I have 12x, which is the same as 2 times 6 times x. And then I have negative 18xy. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, how does this negative come into play? It doesn't really come into play at all, and you're not going to have to worry about that negative. As we go through other examples, you'll see how it plays on, but for now, your highest common factor is not going to be negative, even though this is negative. So think of it as being, all right, I have negative 3 times 6 times x times y. We're looking for our highest common factor. So our highest common factor is going to be 6, 6, but we also have that x in common. So we take that out as well. And that's how we're getting 6x. Okay, let's now go through the rest of them. Here we have 15x and 21y. The highest common factor there is going to be 3. I can't take out a common pronumeral from them, so we just leave it there. Let's now go on to the next one here. So it's going to be 12x and negative 15x squared. My highest common factor here is going to be 3 again. It's going to be 3. And as you can see, I have an x here and I have x squared there. So that means I can take out a common factor of x. Let's walk through this one. So if I have 12x, that can be broken down into 4 times 3 times x. And if I have negative 15x squared, that can be broken down into negative 5 times 3 times, now x squared is x times x. So that means I have 3, then I have multiplied by x, and I have this x here as well. So I have these x's in common. So I have this x and this x in common. So that's why I can pull out an x into my answer there. So when you've got something squared there, make sure you're looking at it carefully because you can normally pull it out. Okay, and then we've got the last one here, 16a squared and 24ac. What is this going to be? So first I look at the numbers, 16 and 24. My highest common factor is going to be 8. Then I've got a squared and a, so I can pull a out. So again, if we were to walk through this slowly, what this is going to look like is 2 times a times 8 times 8. Sorry, I always say 8 and a wrongly. That's a and a. Then I'm going to get 24ac. This is going to be 3 times 8. 3 times 8 times a times c. And then you can see here, my highest common factor is going to be 8, 8, and then a. And that's what it's going to look like. That's going to be my final answer. Perfect. All right, let's now keep on going. So now these are the type of questions you're going to see in your textbook and in the test. So it's going to say, factorize the following. So we're going to follow what we normally do. If we're given this, we're first going to find the highest common factor of both of these terms. So 6x and 15. The highest common factor is going to be 3. So that means I pull 3 out. And now I'm going to have something plus something. 3 times what is going to be 6x? Well, that's going to be 2x. 3 times what is going to be 15? Well, that's going to be 5. And just like that, I've got my answer. We can now check if we have done this correctly, which is fantastic. We can check it. To check if we've done it correctly, we're going to go 3 times 2, 3 times 2x, which is 6x, and then 3 times 5, that's 15. And as you can see, this is the same as this. So we have done it correctly. Hooray. Okay, let's do the next one. We're going to find the highest common factor of 12x and 30. Well, the highest common factor of 12x and 30 is going to be 6. So that means I can pull 6 out, and I'm going to be left with 2x plus 6 times what is 30 is going to be 5. And now we can double check if we've done this correctly by expanding. So let's check it. 6 times 2x is 12x. 6 times 5 is 30. And that is the same as this. We've done it correctly. Let's now go on to our next one. You might want to pause the video and see if you can do this one for yourself. So what we're going to do here is we're going to find our highest common factor, which is going to be 7. I then am going to put 7 out the front, and then I'm going to go, all right, I have something. Now, because I have a minus here, it's going to be minus something. 7 times what will give me 21x? Well, I know that's going to be 3x. Then 7 times what will give me 14y? That will be 2y. Perfect. And then if you wanted to, you can check your answer. Let's check it. 7 times 3x is 21x. 7 times negative 2y is negative 14y. And that's our answer. Perfect. Let's keep on going. So here, yet again, we're going to find our highest common factor of 12a and 18ab. As you can immediately see, I have an a and an a in common, so that's important. Alright, so for my numbers, I can take a common factor of 6 out, that's the biggest, and then I can also take this a out. So now I'm going to go 6a outside, then I'm going to have something plus something else here. 6a times what will give me 12a? Well, that's going to be just 2. And then 6a times what will give me 18ab? That's going to be 3b. And now let's check if we've done this correctly. So let's give this a check. 6a times 2 is 12a. 6a times 3b will be 18ab. And that is what we have up there. Fantastic. Let's keep on going. My highest common factor here, well, as you can see, I have 15 and 25. So my highest common factor is going to be 5. And then I have an a and an a, so I can pull that a out. So I'm going to get 5a. 5a multiplied by what will get me 15a? That's going to be 3. plus 5a times what will get me 25ab. That will be 5b. We can now double check that we have done this correctly. So let's give this a check. This is going to be 5a times 3. Whoops, this should be in blue. Grab my blue. 5a times 3 is going to be 15a, and 5a times 5b is going to be 25ab. Perfect. Let's come over here. What is my highest common factor of 18x and 15y? That's going to be 3, and I can't take out any common pronumerals there. So I'm going to have 3, and then I'm going to go 3 times what is 18x? That's going to be 6x, and then it's going to be minus 5y. That is going to be my answer there. I'm not going to check it. Let's keep on going. Here, my highest common factor is going to be 21 and 6. That's going to be 3. So I can take 3 out. And then I'm going to be left with 7b minus 2a. You might want to quickly check this one. 3 times 7b is 21b. 3 times negative 2a is negative 6a. That is the same as that. Hooray. Let's come to this one now. So this one is going to be my highest common factor. I have 40 and 56. So my highest common factor is going to be 8. And I have a z here and a z here, so I can pull that z out. So I'm going to be left with 8z. 8z times what will give me 40z? That's going to be 5. Plus 8z times what will get me 56? That's going to be 7. Then I have a y there as well. Let's just double check that we've done this correctly. Check. 8z multiplied by 5 is going to give me 40z. 8z multiplied by 7 is going to give me plus 56zy. We have done it correctly. Our very last one. Hooray. Our highest common factor here, if we've got 21h squared minus 9h squared, my highest common factor is going to be 3h, because 3 for the number, and then I can pull h out of them as well. So 3h, then this is going to be 7h, and this is going to be minus 3. Let's check our answer. 3h times 7y is going to be 21h squared. 3h times negative 3 is going to be negative 9h. That is the same as that. We have done it correctly. Okay, so obviously, oh look, there's one that we didn't check. Let's just check it just to be safe. Let's check it. 3 times 6x is 18x. 3 times negative 5y is negative 15y. And that is the same as that. Perfect. So as you can see, factorizing, although it is more tricky than expanding, remember you can always check your answer, and we've done that. Really, we've done it religiously, checking it, which is good, I suppose. Hopefully all this made sense. Finding the highest common factor can be a bit of a pain, but let's now just read through our learning intentions. Do you understand that factorizing is the reverse of expanding? Hopefully you do. Are you able to find the highest common factor of 2 terms? Hopefully you are. And are you able to factorize expressions? Hopefully you can give all those a big tick and you feel confident with this newfound skill. I will see you in the next lesson.